So my conclusions and opinions on this are, first of all, remember that whatever my opinions are, they're simply my opinions based on what I have found from my personal experience in testing. My opinions and nothing more. I don't claim to be an expert in computers or know all there is to know. And everything I say applies to PCs, as in IBM compatibles. I don't know anything about Macs, and I won't comment on them. First of all is lag. There's several things in SL that can cause lag. Some you can control, some you can't. For instance, you cannot control the state of the server or the sim you are on. You can't control your connection other than getting a different service. If you have a poor ISP or live far from the SL servers, your performance may suffer. Like let's say you have a high ping or lost packets. It doesn't matter how great your computer is, it can't compensate for this. As for the hardware, you don't need the latest and greatest high-end gaming computer to play SL. There is a point where you are simply wasting money because SL can't utilize the equipment. Now, if you play other high-end games or do other graphic-intensive activities with your computer, it might be an advantage. However, where SL is concerned, it simply is not warranted. The only exception to this is if you shoot video in SL using Kirsten's Viewer or something similar in Ultra Graphics, with shadows enabled. This will take a fairly high-end system in order to render the shadows and run the video capture software. Without a doubt, the best improvement you can make for SL is a better video card. Onboard graphics are rarely going to have what it takes to run SL well, although some of the newer computers coming out have pretty good onboard graphics, but they will never rival a standalone card. And you don't need the best, most expensive video card on the market either. Nor do you need an SLI setup or whatever ATI calls it. Basically, it's running two video cards piggybacked. Video cards have improved dramatically in the past few years, and the prices have gotten lower. You can easily get a decent video card in the $70 to $150 range that will perform beyond what the average person needs for SL. And pay more attention to the GPU and the clock speeds than the amount of RAM on the card. A card with 512 megabytes of RAM can easily blow a 1 gig card out of the water if it's got a better GPU. I learned this the hard way. Price will be a good indicator of this. If you are looking at a 1 gig card that's $70, but there's a 512 megabit one for $120, you can bet the farm the $120 card is far better than the cheaper one. Keep in mind with some of the bigger cards you will also need to upgrade your power supply and make sure you have the room in the case for the card. Adequate cooling is also an issue. As for the brand of card, I suggest NVIDIA based cards for SL. In my opinion, ATI makes a better product, but most of the complaints I hear about video cards in SL arise from issues with ATI cards and the drivers. For some reason they don't work that well with OpenGL, which is what SL is. Buying an ATI card is sort of hit and miss. It might work great, and it might not. RAM. Honestly, you don't need more than 4 gigs, and most can get by with 3 gigs. Tom's Hardware has actually done tests with all kinds of games and RAM-intensive programs, and proved 3 gigs works for most with a slight increase in performance when going to 4 gigs. All their tests with RAM beyond this, like 6 and 12 gigs, showed no real-time performance. Save the money and put it towards a better card would be my advice. Whenever I look at a system specs, the last thing that concerns me is RAM, as long as it's adequate. Yes, DDR3 is twice as fast as DDR2, but it's RAM, it's all fast. As far as CPUs go, I would suggest at least a dual core with SSE and over 2.5 gigahertz clock speed. I noticed very little difference when upgrading from a 2.8 dual core to a 3.0 quad core, at least as far as SL is concerned. If you want to spend a bunch of money on the latest i7, be my guest, but I doubt you will notice a difference in SL. Hard drives. Believe it or not, a good running fast hard drive actually does make a difference with SL. I would suggest a 7200 RPM hard drive with good read and write times. Keep it clean and defragged. I honestly wouldn't suggest the largest drive you can find either. That's just more area that the drive has to search over to find things. An SL does read and write a lot to and from the drive while you are playing. And in one of the videos you heard me mention I have a solid state drive. I noticed absolutely no improvement in SL when switching to this drive. So for SL, I can't really suggest you run out and get one. I will say though, my computer boots up in under a minute, and they make very little heat and have no noise since they have no moving parts. About the only time I think I would suggest an SSD is if you were getting a laptop, since this is what they were really designed for. They don't create a lot of heat, they're little, and they take a ton of abuse. On the subject of laptops, for SL and gaming, I don't like them. If you have to have a laptop for school or work, that's fine. But if you can get away with a desktop, I think you'd be better off. A desktop will always perform better than a laptop, even if the specs say they are the same. Let's be honest here. My power supply and video card are as big as most laptops. Are we really to believe that you're going to fit that, plus a motherboard and drives, into a laptop and have sufficient cooling and power? I'm not buying it. Finally, my thoughts on overclocking. The simple answer is don't bother with it. In most every case, it's not worth the time, effort, and risk of damage to the parts for the gains you will see. If you want a faster CPU or video card, just save up the money and get a better one. Chances are it will perform better than the lower end model you modified anyway. Let's say you go out and get a run-of-the-mill $70 video card, then decide to overclock it. Chances are, if you are lucky, you will see a 10% or so increase in performance. The downside is you are stressing it out more, so it won't last as long, or you may ruin it in the process of overclocking it. Not to mention, it takes a lot of time to do it right. So now you have to go get another card to replace it. You just spent $140 and ended up with the same performance. If you would have spent $120 to $140 on a better card to begin with, it would run circles around that $70 card even after you overclocked it. And chances are you will never see the difference in performance in real use. It looks cool on benchmark results, but that's about it. So have fun in SL, and I hope I have helped you more than I have confused you.